We're talking about whether things were better in the old days. Do the words family life still conjure up images of 2.4 children, a stay-at-home mum and a row of terraced houses?
In the good old days, I wasn't forced to wear a tie on television. I tell you, it was much better. Figures released today. Figures released today say that's all becoming a thing of the past. The number of stay-at-home mums has halved in the last 40 years. The face of the British family has changed, of course, as well.
Why are bubbles so bubbly, Mummy?
A classic portrait of British family life in the 1970s. Mum looking after the kids and managing the household. A time when it was always safe for them to play on the street and life was, well, a lot more simple. The days when we didn't have to worry about sun cream, seatbelts, second-hand smoke or even health and safety. Fast forward 40 years and how times have changed. We're working harder than ever before, with modern mums juggling their busy careers with their home life. Celebs make it all look easy, but with childcare getting more expensive, mortgages becoming unaffordable, and the age of retirement creeping towards 70, wasn't everything a little bit better in the good old days?
Well, we have a two-pronged approach to discuss this, because, of course, Janet Ellis had Sophie Ellis-Bexter back in the 70s. Surely, I was going to say, not that long ago. And Sophie, you are a mum yourself now, in the noughties. Is that what we call them? In 2014, anyway. Yeah. Janet, do you think that there is more pressure on mums like Sophie than there was when you were bringing her up?
I don't know if the pressure's any different. I think the circumstances are, though. Much more women are working these days. Childcare is hard to come by, it's very expensive. There's a lot more boxing and coxing, I guess, of where people make their arrangements, and grandparents step in a lot. I mean, I can't claim to do regular childcare with your three, what are they, girls? No. They're lovely. Anyway. No, I can't claim that, but I'm around, you know, and obviously it's my pleasure and privilege to be able to help. But a lot of grandparents do it pretty much full-time as a big commitment, and they're saving the government billions. So there obviously does need to be some sort of adjustment in the way that we're helped to look after our kids now.
Sophie, do you look at your mum and how she brought you up and that experience, and then consider it compared to you and your boys, and think, actually, do you know what, it was easy back then for mum?
No, I think in a lot of ways it probably was harder for my mum, because I think when my mum was a full-time working mother, it was probably not quite such a normal thing, do you think? Or, you know, still a little bit more unusual, especially as you'd had me
I don't think
young,
it was as visible, really.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of somebody being pregnant on TV now is completely acceptable. In those days, it was like, well, you sure? Be careful, there's lots of electric stuff around. And I think there was a way that women wanted to be hidden away as well when they had children for a while, because it was felt that you know, our place was in the home. And this is at the end of a time when people were vastly encouraged, girls were vastly encouraged to get out there and work. So a bit of crossover, really, when you were little, I think.
We aren't pressured, though, aren't we? Because all our kids are similar ages now, to look after them and be on top of them and plug them into their car seats and cover them in sun cream and make sure they never play out after a certain time. And that wasn't how I grew up. It wasn't how you grew up, I assume. And we all managed to make it this far.
It's true, and it's funny, I was reading about parenthood around the world as well, and apparently in countries like China there's a lot more of a communal approach to childcare, whereas I think here we have so much pressure on, especially on mums, to kind of get it all right. You're supposed to be able to do the working thing and also achieve everything with your children as well. And actually, I think it's really, if you can have your grandparents involved, I think it's lovely, because then it's that thing of everybody helping to raise the child, you know, taking a village and all that.
Lots of comments on this morning. Sam says life was more simple and laid back then. You didn't worry about weirdos snatching your kids. You didn't have the Xbox. Donna says it's definitely better. You knew your neighbours and their families didn't have a care in the world. Unfortunately, technology has taken over. And Kerry says not better at all, just different. Things change. They always do, and in a few years' time, children will look back on their childhood memories and will be saying the same thing. I know, Sophie, you are particularly concerned, aren't you, about technology and the effect that it can have on our children, and that is something that has changed.
Yeah, I suppose, I don't know if it's concern, just trying to be aware, really. I've got, you know, particularly with my eldest, he's very technologically savvy. He loves playing games online, that kind of thing. I just want to be able to know what he's up to and what he's being introduced to without having to interrogate him. Yeah. Although I feel a little bit like I'm finding it really hard to
Under
look
the
at
interrogation
your absolutely beautiful sunshine, and I'm not complaining about British weather.
But we'll get all the answers out of you with the bright light shining in your face.
Thank you.
Look, it's lovely to see you both. Thank you so much for coming and sharing some thoughts. But Nathan's made a really good point. He said, it makes me laugh when we say it was better in the old days. Sexism and racism are rife. We have a much more civilised society, one that accepts anyone and everyone, which is just a wonderful thing. And that's something, isn't it? You know, we're much more tolerant.
Indeed. Janet and Sophie, lovely to see you. Thank you so much.